The poor dog was in a dire state, emaciated and clearly suffering. Despite his obvious distress, passers-by ignored him like a fossilized artifact, except for one compassionate soul. The events that followed are guaranteed to move you to tears. It's a reality in various parts of the world that stray animals roam the streets in search of sustenance and a permanent home. Some are lucky enough to be rescued and adopted, but unfortunately, many others endure miserable conditions until they pass away without experiencing the joys of life. Hercules, a stray dog in Argentina, was one such pup who lived on the streets. He came perilously close to death before a kind person intervened to save him from his plight. Hercules' life didn't start on a bad note. Once upon a time, he had loving parents who showered him with love and affection. A young couple, struggling to save their marriage due to fertility issues, adopted Hercules with the hope of bringing them closer. As soon as Hercules arrived at their home, the constant arguments decreased, and the couple took great care of him. Hercules even slept between them every night. Unfortunately, a few months later, the arguments resumed, and the couple realized they would be better off apart. One day, the wife left the house and never returned, leaving the poor dog behind. The husband also couldn't bear living in the house haunted by memories of his wife, so he too left, leaving Hercules behind. The couple failed to consider how Hercules would cope without them. They forgot that he was once the source of their happiness and only focused on their own pains and struggles. Sadly, Hercules was left to fend for himself on the streets all alone. Initially, people were kind to the cute and healthy stray dog, often giving him food. However, as he started losing weight and looking unkempt, they began chasing him away. As time went on, it became increasingly difficult for Hercules to survive on the streets, especially with the unfavorable weather. He eventually caught a cold infection and started sleeping in warm but unsanitary environments, which only worsened his condition, leading to severe skin problems and hair loss. With his health deteriorating rapidly, Hercules lost the strength to search for food and instead stayed in one spot, constantly scratching his body. Within a month, his condition worsened to the point where he was skin and bones, unable to move, and just waiting for his end to come. At this point, Hercules was almost unrecognizable. He had lost almost all of his hair, was emaciated, and his skin was dry and dirty, making him resemble a fossil more than an actual dog. The sad part of Hercules' story is that he was on the streets during the festive season, as Christmas approached. The streets were filled with lots of activities, Christmas lights, and trees, yet no one stopped to help the poor animal. As people passed by Hercules each day, laughing and talking about their plans for Christmas, no one offered him any assistance. As the week leading up to Christmas approached, the dog's life slowly began to slip away. By then, he looked like a mere skeleton, and those who saw him assumed he was dead. Even those who noticed he was still breathing had given up hope, believing that he had no chance of survival. They simply looked at him, shook their heads in pity, and walked away. Hercules had lost all hope, believing that no one was going to save him. However, the pup was wrong, and everyone who had given up on him was also wrong. 2 days before Christmas, a good Samaritan appeared, and what happened next was unbelievable. On December 23, 2017, an animal rescuer named Pierre was visiting a friend in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Upon arriving, Pierre heard that a lifeless animal was lying around somewhere in the neighborhood. She decided to take action and ran around the area until she eventually found the dog lying next to a house. Pierre was appalled to see the poor animal's condition. His eyes, which were faintly open, looked dull, and his skeletal body was covered in sores. "I cried because I could not believe that no one had helped him," Pierre said. Pierre approached the dog, knelt beside him, and spoke to him in a loving voice. The dog looked at Pierre with his eyes and let out a groan. His whimpering broke Pierre's heart terribly, as if he was trying to tell her that he was in excruciating pain. Pierre reassured the dog that he was safe now and promised to never abandon him. She provided him with a comfortable shelter to recover and stayed by his side to ensure he received the care and attention he needed. Pierre was dedicated to nursing the dog back to health and made sure to give him round-the-clock care. After the veterinarian had treated him, Pierre took the dog home and made a cozy place for him to rest. She stayed with him, comforting him and encouraging him to recover at his own pace. Sadly, despite Pia's efforts, the dog refused to eat for the first 3 days and continued to lose weight. He had lost his will to survive, and Pia could tell that he had already given up. It was heartbreaking. Even though the canine refused to eat, Pia made sure to give him water every 3 hours to keep him hydrated. She also sat by his side to let him know he wasn't alone in his struggles. The first 3 days were tough, and on 2 occasions, Pia thought that the dog would not make it. He didn't look good at all, and at some point, he was barely breathing. However, after the first week, everything changed. Hercules suddenly started fighting for his life, and with each passing day, he got better. He began to show Pia that he was much stronger than he looked, and she loved every moment of it. While recovering, Pia would lift Hercules and encourage him to walk. But he couldn't. Pierre's patience paid off when, after 3 weeks of round-the-clock care, Hercules made an incredible breakthrough. The canine suddenly rose to his feet and began walking, although he fell after a few steps. Despite this setback, Pierre was overjoyed because she saw it as a sign that Hercules was now determined to fight for his life. Over the next few weeks, Hercules' progress was slow but steady. He started walking for longer periods, gradually building up his strength and endurance. Soon, he was running and jumping around the house, much to Pierre's delight. During this time, Pierre realized that she had never known the dog's original name, so she decided to name him Hercules after the Greek god of strength and heroes. It was a fitting name for a dog who had been through so much and had shown such incredible resilience. As the dog continued to recover, his strength returned and his fur began to grow back. After 2 months of receiving the care and love he needed from Pierre, Hercules was transformed. Who would have guessed that beneath the once dying, bunny animal was a lively, sweet, and adorable soul? Initially, Pierre had planned to find Hercules a new home after he had fully recovered, but their bond had grown so strong that she couldn't bear to let him go. The animal rescuer and her furry friend now share a life filled with happiness, fun, and love. None of this would have been possible if Pierre hadn't given Hercules a second chance. If you were in Pierre's shoes, what would you have done? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section. Take care, and see you in the next video.